And hi again, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Litter Media Live. This is a special edition here, there we go. A special edition. We're brought to you by Litter Quality Propane. Coming up in a moment, a message from Litter Quality Propane. But let me introduce our guests. We have Jamie Barker with us here today, and Jamie is with the group that's looking at the EMS service across Ross County.
That's correct. So we formed an EMS improvement committee, planning committee, you could call it, to try to look at how we deliver those services throughout Ross County and see where we can make some improvements and fill in some gaps that currently exist.
We have talked off and on about this for the last year and a half or so, and we're going to get the latest update for you coming up in just a moment. But first, this from Litter Quality Propane. Online all the time. Customer payment, account information, and more. Log in at litterpropane.com. Jamie, as we talked about this just briefly here, and what we talked about before going on the show today, this has been a subject matter for several months.
Yes.
And I know there's been a lot of misinformation out there and a lot of speculation. Tell us where this all started, and this has been a collaborative effort amongst trustees, amongst the Sheriff's Department, amongst other EMS units. Tell us where this started and where we've progressed to.
Yeah, that's correct. So several years ago, people started to identify some issues in different areas of the county, and not that anyone was doing anything wrong, just some ways that we could make some improvements. Some of the run times were long. It was taking long for a squad to get to somebody. Our EMS delivery systems in Ross County have changed drastically over the years. Several years ago, every township operated with strictly volunteers. Today, we have kind of a patchwork where some townships operate with a paid crew during the daytime, volunteers at night. Some have 24/7 paid, and others have full volunteers still. As things have changed over the years, we've tried to identify some places where we could make some improvements. So about a year or so ago, we formed this planning committee, and the committee was made up of township trustees, fire chiefs. We tried to even get a mix of small townships, large townships, so that everybody had proper representation. The sheriff, the county commissioners, the county prosecutor, county auditor. We've brought in some other experts in the fire and EMS field to try to advise this committee. And ultimately what we did was hired a consulting firm to come in and do an independent study of the entire county system, from dispatch to each department. They gathered information from every department. And just last week, the committee accepted the final version of their study. That being said, the study's 281 pages.
Wow.
We worked very closely with Devin Shoemaker at the county planning office. He's been instrumental in putting this together and running all the logistics. He put out a request for proposals. We had proposals sent in from multiple consulting firms, and ultimately we chose Cambridge, and we were, I think, happy with their work. They came back with a very comprehensive study, and they came back with a lot of different recommendations of things that we can do to make some improvements in our EMS system. Our goal is for everyone in the county to be able to expect the same or at least a similar level of care when they pick up the phone and call 911.
And you can't expect it to be the same today, meeting the needs of what it was set back in 1975.
Yep.
So much has changed. I mean, there was a time where we needed a squad run for a car accident or a heart attack, something of that sort. In the last 20 years, we've had overdoses,
Yep.
and the drug epidemic falling into this. Plus population, I would have to think, has been redistributed throughout the county as well.
Yeah, that's correct. There are a lot of variables that have changed, from the time our EMS systems were set up to today. We've got increased traffic volume throughout the county. When you look at the 1970s or 1980s, we have far more traffic, far more people passing through the county on our highways. The drug epidemic has really put a hurt on every department. I mean, that has taken up a lot of resources. But at the same time, we still have to make sure we get out and treat somebody no matter their problem. But that's definitely changed the EMS landscape, and just a lot of other variables. People point to volunteerism now and say, well, young people now don't volunteer like they used to,
right.
And there are a lot of reasons for that. And in the days past, maybe one person in the home worked outside the home and someone else stayed home. Mm-hmm. Today a lot of families, both parents work, so somebody has to stay home with if you have a family with kids and whatnot. People are working more hours on average now than they were years ago. So there are just a lot of different things that go into that. But rather than looking backwards and trying to figure out, why we don't have as many volunteers as we do, we're trying to look forwards here and see, this is just a reality that I don't know if we can fix that reality. But how do we move forward and continue to provide good services? And our county's been blessed with great volunteers. Throughout the county, all of our townships have people that they can count on to make these runs. And right now, everybody's doing the best they can. One of the things that Cambridge pointed out to us was that nothing in Ross County right now is out of the ordinary. This is part of a national trend with EMS. So it's not, we're not finger pointing. We're not saying, this township isn't taking care of business and this township is. What we're seeing here is representative of what they're seeing in their work throughout the United States.
And we have seen over the years, different townships have gone to full pay opportunities for staffing. Mm-hmm. Most are still relying upon the volunteer mechanism. But you look at Chillicothe City, that, of course, has been running with paid personnel for a number of years. But now, to the outlying areas, you've got some townships that have just as many runs as what Chillicothe City would have. It's been incredible how that's changed.
Yeah, and you mentioned, the population in Ross County has shifted. If you look at the numbers now, there are far more people who live outside the city than live in the city. I don't know that was always the case, but we have to look at what's working. And some of these departments, like you said, have gone to paid crews. A lot of that is you have to balance it out. I know in Jefferson Township, where I'm from, we have about 120 squad runs a year, and we are full volunteer. They cover the overwhelming majority of our runs, do a great job. You won't meet better people and better public servants. But the problem is when we start looking at going to a full-time paid crew, we just can't support that financially when we're making one run every 3 days on average throughout the year. So some of the recommendations included in this report involved maybe some townships pulling resources together. There are some smaller townships like us. We may be able to partner with another township to provide EMS service that might be paid, where we can get that run volume up enough to where it makes sense and it's financially feasible to pay people. Yeah. Because ultimately, I know what I would like to see every area of our county covered by some kind of a full-time paid crew, so that that there are people there, and that would provide opportunities for a lot of our current volunteers to where they may be able to continue to do what they love, because it's a calling for somebody to be an EMT. You have to enjoy doing it. Nobody's doing that job for the money. But it may be a situation where some of these folks can start to get paid for what they're already doing, under a different system. So no decisions have been made yet. Like I said, we accepted this 281-page report last week. So today it was emailed out to all of the townships. So we want people to take a look at it. It's a public document. It's posted live on the auditor's website. It's also posted on the county's planning and development website. So we want people to be able to look at this report and be open and transparent as we can possibly be.
Now, I've not done it in this post, but we'll put a link to the auditor's website so you can see this report on this post. So if you're watching it now, we'll get to that when this is no longer live. But as you mentioned, no decisions have been made, but there's been a lot of suggestions along the way from this study. Do you have a goal date of where you might want to make some decisions?
We will. So right now, we met actually this morning. Our next step is to kind of form a new committee that's kind of tasked with looking at some of these changes and how can we implement some of these changes throughout the county where it makes sense. Again, all decisions around this are going to be made at the most local level of government with township trustees. So, nothing happens, nothing changes unless trustees come together and work with our fire personnel to find solutions that make sense. Not every recommendation in the report involved, getting a squad out the door. There were some recommendations for how our dispatch office operates here in the county. They spent time sitting in the dispatch office with our dispatchers, and they are, they're in the same boat as our EMS personnel. You mentioned, every time somebody picks up a phone and calls 911, whether it be for a cardiac event or a stroke or a drug overdose, our dispatchers at the county office or the city office have to pick up the phone and figure out how to respond to that call and who's going to respond and how to allocate resources. So, they pointed out some things that dispatch could do to be a little more efficient. Right now we have a separate sheriff's dispatch and we have a separate city dispatch. Can they completely combine the dispatch office? I'm not sure. There are a lot of moving parts there when you're working with different union contracts and different pay levels amongst different agencies and things like that. But even without consolidating, I think there are some things that can happen there to make things flow a little smoother when somebody picks up the phone and calls 911. We're also looking at, there's been in place for several years a county mutual aid agreement where, basically any township can respond and help any other township. So there's some changes, that we might be looking at to make in the county agreement as well.
I was surprised with how much the VA Fire and Rescue Department is put into play in mutual aid. It's amazing, and I thought to myself, it's like its own little city helping as well in the adjoining.
It is. They're a great resource, and unlike each township right now is trying to fund its own fire department and EMS service. The VA has a little more cushion when it comes to their budget from the federal government, and they have great professionals. They have equipment that is top notch. I know their folks train. They're able to travel around and do a lot of different trainings and improve upon their skills, and they are a great resource for the townships to be able to use and call on for mutual aid. Mm-hmm. And they always step up and respond when asked, to things off the VA campus. So, that's part of the discussion too, is how can we better utilize that resource we have here in the county, and their leadership is outstanding and very cooperative as well.
Mm-hmm. Have other counties locally shown interest in this study? Because it may benefit them as well.
Not yet, but we really haven't had any discussions with folks outside of Ross County. I don't know if you guys were there when we had our first meeting. We met at the service center, this planning committee, and it was a packed house, and it was a little bit intimidating sitting on the committee because we had a full house. We had a representative there from our congressman's office. We had a representative from the governor's office, and people just wanted to know, what was going on and what we were doing. And like I said, Devin Shoemaker, the county planner, has been instrumental in this, and I feel like we've gone about this the right way. We've included everybody. Like I said, we've worked right alongside trustees, fire chiefs, commissioners, basically all the decision makers, plus all the experts. I can't answer all the questions with regards to EMS. So we brought in a group of fire chiefs, into the committee that they're the subject matter experts, and they've been tremendous to work with. It's been a great collaborative effort so far. I think that's what we'll see moving forward, is just more collaboration and more teamwork so that we can achieve these goals.
And I think getting kind of lost in some of this is the fact that, like, you look at East Palestine with what they have gone through. There's structure that we're building here, and we have existing structure, but how much better can that structure work And I think that's what you've been looking at. And if we were to have some type of devastating event that would happen here, we're better capable of handling that.
Yes, that's a big part of it too. And I know our county EMA office, they have to plan for events that the rest of us don't think of.
Yeah.
They have plans for flooding and major disasters, and I would assume more planning now. In the case of we have a lot of rail lines that run through Ross County, so heaven forbid something like that were to happen around here. But the World Heritage designation for the Hopewell Earthworks now is going to drastically increase the number of visitors we see. Right. And it's great for the county. Those people come into the county, they might stay in hotels, they might stay in eat at restaurants, they might shop while they're in town. They might also fall ill while they're in town or get into an accident or something like that, and they might need EMS care. So the amount of care that we provide in this county is not going to go down. It's probably we're looking at the projections show that we're going to have increased amounts of EMS calls in the future. So, not only do we need to prepare for today, but we need to also be looking down the road and prepare for that, so that we're ready when things happen.
Like anything, businesses that stay strong in business have planned for 50 years down the road.
Yes.
And while this isn't a business, it's still something the structure need to be planned for 50 years down the road.
Exactly. It's not a business. Nobody's getting rich in the EMS profession, but at the same time, you're providing a service to the public.
A necessary,
and a very necessary service,
yeah.
and it needs to be. We need to plan for the future and what the future of Ross County might look like.
Yeah, you mentioned you're going to have another committee get together at some point in time. Do you have some future dates you'd like to share with people for public consumption?
Sure. So we are having a township association. So we have a Ross County Township Association that meets 3 or 4 times a year. We're meeting in April. So I think a few of us, a group of township trustees and fire chiefs, are going to kind of present this report to the trustees as a whole, just so that everybody's on the same page and everybody knows what we've been working on, and everybody knows what the recommendations are as well. The Fire Chiefs Association, they meet monthly. So kind of the first step right now moving forward is to take this information to the fire chiefs and take it to the trustees, because ultimately the trustees are going to be the ones making the decisions, but we can't make those decisions without input from our fire and EMS personnel. I mean, like I said, they're the experts and they're the ones on the ground doing the job, so it would be foolish not to include them, in those conversations. So that's kind of the next step, and then we're looking at forming possibly some subcommittees to look into different things. As a township trustee, I don't need to be on a committee that's analyzing the dispatch office. The sheriff and some of his staff and some other folks, they're the experts in that area, so I won't need to be a part of that. Decisions that involve townships might make sense. So, kind of seeing which directions we want to go and forming some subcommittees, I think, is in the near future.
Yeah. Once again, I'll have a link for that so you'll be able to see this information that is just now starting to be digested by the trustees and the fire chiefs across Ross County.
It's a lot. It's a lot of information, but it's good stuff. And some of the recommendations also include ideas for training. How do we train our folks? And maybe some streamlined processes to where, Huntington Township might have a group of people that need 10 hours of training for a certain skill, and Jefferson Township might have a group of people that need 5 hours of training for something different. But we're also looking at ways we can bring together the training process maybe throughout the county and streamline some of that, so it kind of takes that burden off each. Our fire chiefs they're great people, but they're worked hard, and it's a thankless job. And outside of running the department, they also have to keep up with everybody's certification and how many hours does this person need to renew their EMT license and so forth. So if we could streamline some of those processes at the county level, it would take that burden off of the fire chiefs.
Yeah. We appreciate the efforts that you and the many others have put into this, and looking forward to seeing what comes from it.
Absolutely. We are too.
Yeah. Jamie Barker, again, thank you for watching here on Liter Media Live. And again, we'll have that link embedded into this post so you'll be able to see everything that we've been talking about and what they're all perusing through today, even as we speak. Jamie, thanks again.
Sure, thank you.
And thank you for watching Liter Media Live. We'll have another segment for you coming up a little bit later on, so you stick around. Thanks for watching.